Just drop the charges and keep the peace, my mom demanded. This time I chose myself. 6 months later, my sister begged at my doorstep in the rain. I, 29M, have spent most of my adult life cleaning up after my sister Tanya, 26F. For years, I've been her safety net, her ATM, and her get-out-of-trouble-free card. But I never thought my own sister would call the police on me, claiming I stole my own car from her, but that's exactly what happened last month. Looking back, I should have seen this coming. The warning signs were always there, flashing like neon billboards I deliberately ignored. Growing up, Tanya was always my parents' golden child. While I worked part-time jobs through high school to save for college, Tanya got everything handed to her. When she crashed her first car at 16, my parents bought her a newer, better one within a week. When she failed classes, they hired expensive tutors rather than expect her to study harder. The pattern was established early. Tanya makes mistakes, everyone else fixes them. When we reached adulthood, nothing changed except who was expected to clean up her messes. Suddenly, it wasn't just my parents. It was me too. When Tanya missed college application deadlines because she was too busy partying with friends, I was the one who paid the late fees. When her credit card debt spiraled out of control because she couldn't resist designer clothes and weekend getaways, I was the one who bailed her out. 3 times. My parents' mantra became painfully familiar. Just help your sister out this one last time, Ryan. Be the bigger person. Meanwhile, I was building my own life brick by careful brick. I worked my way through college, landed a decent job at an accounting firm, saved for a down payment on my modest house, and maintained an excellent credit score. I lived within my means and took responsibility for my choices. But in my family's eyes, my stability somehow translated into an obligation to rescue Tanya from her endless stream of self-inflicted crises. 6 months ago, Tanya called me crying about how her car had broken down and she couldn't afford repairs. She needed to get to work, she said. She'd lose her job without reliable transportation. Could she please borrow my second car just for a week? Against my better judgment and the warnings of my girlfriend Lisa, I agreed. After all, it was just sitting in my driveway most days since I primarily drove my newer vehicle. 1 week turned into 2. 2 weeks became a month. My increasingly firm requests for the car's return were met with excuses, then ignored texts, then outright hostility. You're so selfish, Ryan. You have 2 cars. I actually need this one. When I drove by her apartment once, I saw my car parked with a large dent in the fender that hadn't been there before. She never mentioned any accident to me, never offered to pay for repairs, and I later discovered she'd let my insurance lapse on the vehicle without telling me. This wasn't the first time my family had shown their true colors. 3 Christmases ago, Tanya had borrowed a significant amount of money from our grandmother's purse during family dinner. When the missing money was discovered, I saw Tanya slip the cash into my jacket pocket in the hallway when she thought no one was looking. She then loudly found it there while everyone was searching, tearfully suggesting I must have taken it. Our entire extended family immediately believed her. My protests were dismissed as making excuses. Even when grandmother gently suggested there might be a misunderstanding, my Aunt Barbara sharply told her that Ryan has always been jealous of the attention Tanya gets. I repaid the money myself to end the humiliating episode, and no one ever apologized when the truth eventually came out months later through a drunken confession from Tanya at a family reunion. That incident should have been enough warning about what Tanya was capable of. It wasn't. Then came the day that changed everything. I was in the middle of a presentation at work when 3 police officers walked into the conference room. My boss's face went white as they asked for me specifically. In front of my colleagues and important clients, I was questioned about a vehicle theft report filed that morning. According to the report, I had stolen a car belonging to Tanya Reed. My car, with my name on the title and registration. The humiliation of that moment burned through me like acid. My coworkers' eyes, my boss's tight expression, the clients exchanging uncomfortable glances. It all seared into my memory. I provided my ID, explained the situation calmly despite my racing heart, and showed them digital copies of the vehicle documentation from my cloud storage. What truly shocked me was the level of preparation Tanya had put into her deception. The police showed me paperwork, a bill of sale with my signature that I immediately recognized as forged, transfer documents dated 3 months earlier, even a notarized statement claiming I had sold her the car and was now trying to take it back after a personal disagreement. The notary's stamp belonged to her friend Melanie, who worked at a bank and had clearly abused her position to help Tanya with this scheme. Even more disturbing was how seriously the police took the report. One officer, Detective Wells, seemed unusually invested in the case. It wasn't until later that I learned he was dating Tanya's roommate. She had leveraged this connection to ensure the report was processed quickly, without the usual scrutiny such claims might receive. The detective had conveniently overlooked the registration discrepancies that should have raised immediate red flags. Fortunately, the other officers were more thorough and professional. After examining my evidence, they quickly realized something wasn't adding up. One of them pulled me aside after confirming my story checked out. "Look," he said, his voice low, "she filed a false police report with forged documents and tried to frame you. That's serious. The notary fraud alone is a felony. If I were you, I'd press charges, and you might want to report that detective for his involvement." My phone was already lighting up with calls from my parents. I let them go to voicemail as I tried to process what had just happened. When I finally listened to their messages, I wasn't surprised by the content. They weren't calling to check if I was okay or to express outrage at what Tanya had done. They were calling to pressure me to cover for her, to tell the police it was all a misunderstanding, that I had taken the car and returned it without telling her. "She made a mistake," my mother's voice pleaded. "You know how she is, just tell the police you took the car and brought it back. Your insurance will cover it." For the first time in my life, I found myself saying no, not just thinking it, not just mumbling it reluctantly, but firmly stating, "No, not this time. She crossed a line." My father's response was immediate and harsh. "If you do this to your sister, don't consider yourself part of this family anymore." Those words should have devastated me. Instead, they crystallized everything I'd been feeling for years. The conditional nature of my family's love had never been so blatantly expressed. After talking with a lawyer friend about the potential consequences, I made the hardest decision of my life. I decided to press charges against my own sister for filing a false police report, forgery, fraud, and effectively grand theft auto, since she'd refused to return my vehicle despite multiple documented requests. The evidence was overwhelming. I had text messages showing I had loaned her the car temporarily, not given it to her. I had messages documenting my repeated requests for its return. I had insurance documents proving I was the legal owner. The officer who took my statement was thorough, collecting security camera footage from my workplace parking lot showing I couldn't possibly have taken the car when Tanya claimed. My colleagues, though uncomfortable being involved, provided witness statements confirming I had been in meetings when the alleged theft occurred. A forensic document examiner quickly confirmed the forged signature on the bill of sale. The notary, Melanie, faced with losing her professional certification and potential criminal charges, quickly admitted that she had notarized the document as a favor to Tanya without my presence. Detective Wells was placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation into his handling of the case. When Tanya was arrested, my parents called me screaming. How could I do this to my own blood? What kind of monster was I? Didn't I understand that a criminal record would ruin her life? My mother sobbed dramatically, saying I was killing her with stress. My father threatened to change his will, to never speak to me again, to tell everyone we knew what a vindictive person I had become. Through it all, I maintained my resolve, though each conversation left me physically shaking. This wasn't about revenge. It was about consequences. For once, Tanya would face the results of her own actions without me cushioning her fall. My parents bylaid Tanya out but refused to pay for a decent attorney, expecting me to cave before the case proceeded further. They didn't understand my determination. Years of resentment had crystallized into a diamond-hard resolve. For the first time, I blocked their numbers, needing space to breathe without their constant pressure. The fallout came gradually for Tanya. Her employer initially placed her on administrative leave, giving her the benefit of the doubt. But as the evidence mounted and media coverage of the unusual case increased, they eventually terminated her employment, citing their morality clause. Her landlord, already frustrated with late rent payments, began eviction proceedings, though the process would take months to complete. Tanya's first instinct was to find another savior. With me out of the picture and my parents' resources stretched thin from bail payments, she turned to our wealthy uncle. She had always been his favorite, masterfully playing the role of adoring niece whenever designer gifts or cash-filled birthday cards were on the line. According to my cousin, Tanya showed up at my uncle's house with tearful stories about how I had set her up, how she was being persecuted, how she just needed a little help to get back on her feet. My uncle initially welcomed her, even letting her stay in his guest house. But Tanya couldn't maintain the facade for long. Within 3 weeks, she had maxed out 2 of his credit cards, borrowed his wife's jewelry to pawn, and crashed his BMW while driving without a license. Her own had been suspended after the accident in my car. Even my uncle, who had consistently taken Tanya's side for years, finally saw through her manipulations. He not only kicked her out but filed his own police report about the stolen credit cards and jewelry, adding to her mounting legal troubles. My extended family launched a coordinated attack. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly texted me about family loyalty. My aunt, who had sided with Tanya during the Christmas money incident, called to remind me how Tanya had always looked up to me and how I was destroying her by not dropping the charges. She conveniently forgot her own role in enabling Tanya's previous false accusation against me. My social media accounts filled with thinly veiled posts about family betrayal, carefully crafted to make me the villain without explicitly nomming me. Through a mutual friend, I learned my parents were planning an intervention. They invited me to Sunday dinner, planning to ambush me with family members who would pressure me to drop the charges. I declined the invitation. Instead, I sent a group email to everyone involved. I attached documentation of just some of the financial support I'd provided Tanya over the years. I included photos of the forged documents she had created to frame me. I explained how she had endangered my professional reputation and could have given me a criminal record through her false accusations. I reminded them of the Christmas incident and asked why none of them had defended me then. I ended with a simple statement. I have always been there for Tanya. I have sacrificed my own financial security countless times to bail her out. After everything I've done for her, this is how she repaid me, by trying to have me arrested for a crime I didn't commit. I won't be made the villain for finally saying enough is enough. The responses split the family. Some doubled down, unable to let go of the narrative they'd built around Tanya as the perpetual victim. But others, particularly the younger generation of cousins who had witnessed Tanya's manipulations firsthand, privately reached out to offer support. My cousin called to apologize for not speaking up during the Christmas incident. We all knew she was lying, he admitted. We were just so used to keeping the peace around Tanya that it was easier to let you take the fall. My mother called, crying hysterically. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us, by destroying your sister's life. No, I replied, finding strength in my quiet anger. After everything I've done for her, this is how she repaid me. The legal process moved more slowly than TV shows suggest. 6 months passed before Tanya finally appeared in court. Facing overwhelming evidence and abandoned by her friend Melanie, who had accepted a plea deal in exchange for testifying about the notary fraud, Tanya pleaded guilty to reduced charges. The judge sentenced her to 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and full restitution for the damaged vehicle. No jail time, but a permanent criminal record that would follow her. I was asked to provide a victim impact statement. Standing in that courtroom, looking at my sister's tear-streaked face, was surreal. The girl I had protected for years now glared at me with naked hatred. I spoke briefly about the breach of trust, the professional embarrassment, and the painful family rift her actions had caused. I didn't mention the years of financial support or emotional labor. Some things weren't for public consumption, even in this most public of reckonings. Over the next few months, Tanya's situation deteriorated steadily. The combination of legal fees, restitution payments, lost employment, and her damaged reputation made it impossible for her to maintain her previous lifestyle. She bounced between friends' couches, wearing out her welcome with each one. She tried staying with our parents, but their relationship strained under the constant proximity and her increasing demands. Even they, who had enabled her for 26 years, began to set boundaries. By the 8-month mark, her desperation was evident in her increasingly erratic behavior. She created fake social media accounts to harass me and my girlfriend Lisa. She showed up at my workplace, causing a scene that required security to remove her. She even attempted to date one of my friends, Tyler, in what appeared to be a misguided attempt to either get close to me again or to hurt me. Tyler, seeing through her immediately, declined her advances and warned me about her approach. 4 weeks after the courthouse scene, I heard a knock at my door late one rainy evening. Opening it revealed Tanya, soaking wet, a single suitcase beside her. Her makeup ran in dark streaks down her face, either from tears or rain or both. "I have nowhere else to go," she said, her voice breaking. "They kicked me out. I can't find a new place with my record and no job. I've changed, Ryan, I promise. Please, I'm your sister." For a moment, I saw the little girl who had once followed me everywhere, who had looked up to me with adoring eyes before our parents' favoritism poisoned our relationship. For a moment, I weakened. But then I remembered the police officers in my workplace, the forged documents, the deliberate planning that went into framing me, the look on my boss's face, the frantic damage control needed to save my professional reputation, the countless nights I'd lain awake, betrayed by the people who were supposed to love me most. "Family doesn't do what you did to me," I said quietly. "I'll pay for 3 nights at a motel. After that, you're on your own." She didn't take my offer. Instead, she cursed me, her momentary vulnerability hardening into familiar entitlement. She promised I would regret this, that our parents would make me pay. I closed the door as she screamed on my porch, only calling the police when she began pounding on my windows and threatened to break them. That night, my parents called from Tanya's phone. They demanded I take responsibility for my sister. When I refused, my father uttered the words that finally severed our relationship. "Then you're dead to us. You chose this." "No," I replied, surprised by the calm in my voice. "Tanya chose this the moment she tried to have me arrested. You chose this by enabling her for 26 years. I'm just finally choosing myself." I hung up and blocked that number too. 2 months later, I accepted a job offer in another city. I sold my house, donated most of my possessions, and started fresh where no one knew me as Tanya's responsible brother. I changed my phone number and limited my social media presence. The only family I stayed in contact with was my maternal grandmother, who had quietly supported my decision from the beginning, and the cousins who had reached out in support. "You did what you had to do," my grandmother told me during our weekly calls. "Some people never learn if they're never allowed to fail." My cousin and I developed a friendship that had never been possible before. "The family dynamic is shifting," he told me 6 months after I moved. "Without you there to be the scapegoat and with my uncle no longer financially supporting Tanya, people are starting to see through her act." According to him, Tanya had tried and failed to manipulate their younger cousin Emily into letting her move into her college apartment. Emily, having witnessed the fallout of my situation, firmly refused. It was the first time anyone in the younger generation had directly stood up to Tanya. It's been a year now. Through therapy, I've begun to unpack the toxic family dynamics that dominated most of my life. I'm learning that love shouldn't come with the price tag of self-destruction. I'm building connections with friends who value me for who I am, not what I can provide them. Sometimes I still wake up feeling guilty, wondering if I could have handled things differently. But those moments pass more quickly now. Tanya, from what my grandmother tells me, eventually moved in with a boyfriend and has been working retail jobs. She lost that position after 3 months for register discrepancies, then found work as a server. For the first time in her life, she's having to face consequences without someone swooping in to save her. My parents still don't speak to me. Perhaps they never will. The extended family has largely split into 2 camps, those who still believe Tanya's victim narrative and those who have begun to recognize the toxic patterns that defined our family for generations. Several cousins have sought therapy themselves, recognizing similar dynamics in their own relationships. My aunt still refuses to speak to me, but my uncle Steve sent a brief but meaningful email on my birthday. "You were right to stand your ground. I wish I'd done the same years ago." I don't regret pressing charges. That moment of standing up for myself, of refusing to be the family scapegoat one more time, was transformative. It cost me the family I was born into, but it gave me the chance to discover what real family should feel like. Supportive, reciprocal, and unconditional, not in enabling bad behavior, but in loving each other through both successes and honest mistakes. Some people ask if I miss them. The truth is complicated. I miss who I wanted them to be. I miss the family I deserved but never had. But I don't miss walking on eggshells, draining my bank account, or sacrificing my self-respect to maintain relationships built on obligation rather than love. Sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most necessary beginnings. In losing my family, I finally found myself, and that ultimately was worth everything it cost me.